All right, today we're talking with Marine Corps veteran Donnie Boivin, entrepreneur and CEO and founder of Success Champions and Success Champion Network. Donnie, thanks for being here. Got a lot of good things to talk about. Let's kick it off by telling us what you did in the Marine Corps.
Hey, Joe, thanks for having me, brother. So went in the Marine Corps in 95, was a 35-21, 35-22 motor T mechanic. So I tell everybody I'm a government trained mechanic, which means I don't know crap about turning wrenches on cars whatsoever.
You can fix a Humvee all day long, right?
Dude, I mean, well, a Humvee, there's nothing to it. It's a block of metal with some belts and you put a little oil into it and it goes. These things nowadays have like entire computer systems on them and everything. I'm out. Yeah. I don't even try and change my own oil anymore.
Yeah, the only problem with changing your own oil is like when you're done, you got to figure out what to do with the oil.
Right. It's just easier to pay somebody, and that way that person keeps their job and we keep the economy rolling.
Yeah. Well, talk to us a little bit about what your transition out of the Marine Corps was like.
So got out in 99. My best friend and his old man had a heating and air conditioning company. So I came out really, really easy. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if anybody's tracking 95 to 99, that was the years we didn't do anything. I mean, there was no wars going on. It was after Desert Storm, before Kosovo. So there was nothing. So, but I came out easy transition, came right back to the family. So I didn't have the hardships that I've don't understand, but I've seen a lot of people talk about how hard this transition. I didn't have any of that, but I went straight into being a grunt for a heating and air conditioning company. So I was a guy that literally crawled under houses, up in attics in Texas during the summer. So attics would be 140 degrees, spiders, snakes, all the craps under the house. I didn't do that job long. So I remember the day that I tried to quit. I walked up and Jerry was the owner. I walked up and said, and as I'm walking to his house, he's on the back porch or on the front porch, and he's like, "Oh, that's a I'm gonna quit face." I'm like, "Oh, you damn right, I'm done with this." He goes, "Hey, before you quit, try something for me." I said, "Okay, what am I trying?" He goes, "I'm gonna hand you a whole bunch of these brochures. Tomorrow I'm gonna drop you off in the neighborhood and I want you to go knock on houses." He goes, "And if somebody allows us to come in and we can do some work on their house, I'll pay you a commission off of whatever we sell." I said, "So I don't have to climb in attics under houses?" He goes, "Nope." I said, "I'm in." He goes, "But wait, you don't get any money unless we actually do some work in there and they pay me." I'm like, "I'm okay with that. I want to freaking climb under, in attics and under houses."
Yeah.
And that's how I started my sales career.
No kidding. Hey, so I got a question. So my son, my nephew are both HVAC guys out in Phoenix. I'm curious, when you went to all commission and basically selling HVAC service or systems door to door, like, can you go into a little bit of detail?
Yeah, dude.
Like what were your numbers, or like how long did you end up doing it before you went on something else?
The first week I didn't sell anything. And at that point I had no money. I mean, I didn't have any income coming in. I couldn't hardly afford to do anything. And luckily my buddy, his dad owned the company, so he would pick me up in the morning, and then Jerry would drop me off in the neighborhood because I was the only sales guy for him. And when Jerry usually dropped me off, we'd plant a cooler of water somewhere in that neighborhood that I would go back during the day and find out water. Well, one day we forgot the cooler of water. And so here I am knocking on doors, and it's 100+ degrees out, and I got no water. And I just keep striking out. Well, I get to about the 7th, 8th house that day, and the gal opens the door. And when she opens the door, I put my hands up instantly, and she goes, because she's trying to slam the door. I said, wait, hold on. I said, "I'm so sorry. You're the first person who's answered the door. I forgot my cooler of water today. Can I just get a glass of water? I'm so sorry." She goes full country mode on me at that point. She goes, "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Come on in." Right. So she brings me into the house and she sits me down at the table, gets me a glass of water. She goes, "All right, well, you're in here. You might as well tell me what you were knocking on the door about." So I started telling her, just like a regular person, what I was doing. And she goes, "Oh, we'll call your boss. Have him come by. I don't think anything's wrong with our system, but you're in here cooling off. You might as well come on in." So Jerry came in. We did a couple little tiny maintenance thing. We didn't need a whole lot of anything. And, Jerry threw me a couple dollars commission for it. From then on out, Joe, I had to pee a lot. Every house I went to, I'm like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I forgot my cooler of water. Can I just get a glass of water?" And literally, because I instantly became human, people treated me like a human and not a salesperson. So if your boys are listening to this, guys, go ask for a glass of water. As dumb as it sounds, It makes you freaking human. And once you become human, people will have real conversations. And don't have so many companies nowadays teach flip through your book crap where, take them through the sale. Don't take them through any through the sales process. Go in and have real conversations. Look at their stuff. And if you can help them, you help them. If you can't, you can't get out. But we grew that company just to help with the numbers. When I went to work for them, they started were doing about $180,000-$200,000 a year. By the time I left, we moved into commercial age heating and air conditioning. We're doing a little over, I think, $2.3 million in sales. So I helped them transition that in about 2.5, almost 3 years.
So you stuck with them for another 2.5, 3 years after
Yeah.
you quit installing HVAC.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, well, let me say that I was with them 2.5, 3 years altogether. So I probably 2 years at most sold.
Okay. Yeah. So that was the launch of your sales career.
Yeah, totally.
That hooked on sales after that.
I wouldn't say hooked. It was just to end up being the only thing I was good at. My brother had moved up to St. Louis, and so it was time to grow up. So I got an opportunity to go to St. Louis, work for a Fortune 500 up there in a marketing capacity, but was still in the sales role. And I did that for 3 years, and then we were bought out by Cardinal Health. And when the corporate buyout happened, my position was pretty much deemed duplicatable. They already had the people. So I was pretty much corporate downsized, as they call it, because that was a politically correct way of saying you're fired back in the day. And, came back home, bartended for a couple of years, met my wife while I was bartending. And probably the coolest moment in that portion of my life was when I met Elizabeth. We were trying to settle down, grow up a little bit. I'm like, okay, I got to go back and get a big boy job again. I got to get out of this bartending crap. So my wife and I, when I wasn't bartending at the big nightclubs, I was waiting tables at a Bennigan's restaurant, and I changed all my night shifts at Bennigan's to the day shift and took over the bar area of the restaurant, figuring that I would meet more corporate executives that way, and hopefully I could get into a conversation with one and somebody would pick me up. Well, sure as all get out, a gal by the name of Jane Miranda happened to go to a big conference in Pennsylvania. And then when the keynote speaker said his best sales guy was his waiter at his restaurant. And she said, as soon as she heard that, she came gunning for me because they knew my story. They knew everything that I had done up to that point. And so literally I was hired out from behind a bar to go sell commercial printing. And because this new digital printing had just came to the marketplace and nobody in her company wanted to sell it. So I sold commercial printing for 6.5, almost 7 years. Then Sandler Training came gunning for me. And my last career of working for other people was, Sandler Trainer. Supposedly I became one of the top sales trainers in the country, and picked up partner in that firm. All the Sandlers are franchises. So in my franchise, I picked up partner. And one fateful night, I went from working for other people to then running my own empire now. So I'm running my own companies. So it's been a pretty wicked ride.
And then you thought you were going to do Sandler for a long time, but then something at the very end happened with your boss.
Yeah, for sure. So, man, my business partner doing Sandler is a hell of a dude. I still love him to death, but we went out to dinner to celebrate everything that we'd built and done. And we were just starting to talk about the buyout. We knew it was going to be a multi-million-dollar buyout, probably 5-year, process to completely buy him out of the system. And during that dinner, he looked at me and said, "Donnie, thank God you're my retirement plan." Now, he said it out of love, man. He truly did. And I took it out of love. I mean, instantly, as soon as he said it, man, I told him, "God, I love working for you. This has been awesome. I love building everything we built together. And I love the fact that I get an opportunity to help you, get to where you've been trying to get to in life." But after that dinner, I went and sat in my truck. And I'm like, "Dude, what the hell are you doing? You are literally somebody else's retirement plan." And then I started looking back over everything I've done. And up to that point in my life, everything I did was because somebody else either asked me to do or it was offered to me. And nowhere in my life did I look at things and go, "Dude, this is what I want to be. This is what I want to do." So 15 days later from that moment, I walked away from it all and launched Success Champions. And let me tell you, brother, craziest ride, because within 24 hours of me saying I'm launching Success Champions, I had attorneys on my farm with non-compete papers. I literally started a company that I planned to do sales training and stuff, and I could not do the one thing I knew. I couldn't talk about sales, sales training, sales development, sales management, anything in the sales game I could not touch. So I pivoted and started as a success coach, and that's how all this craziness started.
It's all right. Hold that thought. We're going to be right back. All right, back talking with Marine Corps veteran Donnie Boivin. So, Donnie, before the break, we were talking about you couldn't go into sales because you had to non-compete with Sandler. So you had to pivot and become a success coach. What is a success coach?
Joe, I got to be honest with you, brother. I have no damn idea. But obviously, it's a business whore. And what I mean by that is, dude, I just said yes to anything I could do to rub two nickels together. I mean, early on, man, I was building websites, doing content, freaking trying to do marketing and trying to do some weird mindset coaching. You know, I think success coach is what that label that somebody puts on themselves when they have no clue what the hell they're actually doing. Mm-hmm. And I did that for about 6 months. And unfortunately, at the 6-month mark, I stood on the back porch of my farm, looked at my wife and said, babe, I'm about to lose everything we own, because I had no idea how to be a business owner. And here's the crazy thing, Joe, is growing up working for other people, I never saw the CEOs of companies, right? Especially the bigger the company. The only time I saw them is if a really large deal was coming through or a merger and acquisition was going to happen. And that was the only time I saw the CEO. So as I was building this business, now granted, I couldn't do the sales training stuff that I knew. I was spent all my time on the back end learning how to do things. Like I learned how to create videos. I learned how to edit videos. I learned how to write blogs, books. You know, I did all this stuff, and it was all this learning. And when I told my wife we were about to lose everything, she looked at me and said, Donnie, get off your ass and go sell something. And what I realized is, because I always thought the CEOs were behind the scenes, I was doing behind the scenes stuff in my company, not doing the one thing I was good at. So I started selling, and I was selling content packages and all kinds of crazy stuff to get things working and get some revenue come in. But I found podcasting in May of 2018 when I launched my first show. 5 months into that, it became number 22 in the world. And now I was sitting next to all the guys I used to listen to: Gary Vee, Tim Ferriss, Tony Robbins, you know. And then my non-compete came up in September of 2018. So with now the momentum of the podcast, now I could talk about sales and sales training, and I can start doing the things I was really, really good at. Flash forward to where we are now, and we have 6 companies, 2 of the top podcasts in the world, 4 best-selling books, and a partridge in a pear tree.
Oh, no kidding. You know, being a sales guy is about as close as you can get to running your own business without actually being self-employed.
You know, I used to be at 100% agree with you. I really thought, being a sales guy, that I understood what it meant to run a company. I mean, you cut your own hours, you know, you make as much money as you want to, blah, 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 blah. I also would have told you when I was a sales guy that I outworked everybody. First one in, last one to leave. 2 things I absolutely know. One, being a sales guy, I had no comprehension what it took to actually run a business.
Right.
2, being a sales guy, I was a lazy son of a gun. And here's why. Running your own company, there's no more 7 days a week. There's no more 24 hours in the day. It's 100% go 100% of the time. You know, when you're an employee, you look for work-life balance. Being an entrepreneur, there's no such thing as work-life balance, because this is your livelihood. If you work for somebody else, there's a draw, commissions, things that'll come in. There's always a place to go. Running your own business, there's nothing. So you're literally in a spot that everything is on you. And you learn really quick, being an entrepreneur, what you're made of, truly made of, because I can promise you that nothing I have done has in life has punched me harder in the face than trying to build a business. It is hard, extremely hard. But if you can push through, it's a very rewarding on the back end. As long as you enjoy waking up every day, knowing you're going to get punched in the face and you keep on going.
Right.
Yeah. I tell people the only reason we find some sort of success running our own business is because we were too dumb to throw in the damn towel. Because
Yeah.
logic would have told a lot of people along the way, myself included, that, dude, why the hell would you put yourself through this? Now looking back, I'm like, thank God I kept pushing. But it's really tough to build a business.
Yeah. So early on, what were the primary pillars of your business? Was it mostly the podcast?
Yeah, so podcast led to everything. And so I, can really, because of everything I had learned those first 6 months building videos, that second 6 months of business, I was still basically a success coach. We just came a content production company as well. So what we were doing is we were literally selling packages to people where we would interview them for an hour and then we would produce a month's worth of social content for them. So every month we would just send people a package of just a ton of blogs, graphic designs, all kinds of things to keep them going. The cool thing about all that is that's what taught me systems and processes and outsourcing and how to actually function as a business owner, which, ultimately allowed me to grow the business and get to a point where we could actually scale it. So.
Yeah, I think that if you've never run a business before, never been a part of that, and you jump right in, like a lot of military guys do, and next thing you know, you think you just need to do everything. It's my business; I got to do everything, and so you have no other choice. Especially if you don't have a whole lot of revenue coming in, you don't have much choice but to try to pull off everything. And then instead of being the expert in a couple of things like what you're used to, you kind of become a jack of all trades, not really good at anything.
Well, I love that phrase, jack of all trades. And then I want to speak a little bit to your whole point in a second. But people always throw jack of all trades out a little bit wrong. The actual full quote is jack of all trades, master of none, but
Mm-hmm.
more often than not, better than the master of one is really the full quote. So it's been thrown out of context for a whole lot of years. But to your point of you got to do everything in the Marine Corps, military, or as an employee, somebody says, go do something. You don't question, you just do, right? Because if you don't, you get in trouble, you get fired.
Mm-hmm.
When you start a business, most people stay in that mindset of, okay, it's got to get done. I'm just going to do it. The problem is when you're building a business, if you continue down that path, you will create a crappy job for yourself and not a business, because a CEO thinks in who, not how. An employee always thinks about how do I get this done? The CEO goes, who can get this done?
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest difference people will find is getting very creative and getting people to help you out with things you need done. So, prime example, when I first started, I needed help editing the podcast. As you know, it's a hot mess to do all that editing yourself. It's a lot of damn work. And I personally freaking hate doing it because what should take me a half hour would take me freaking 4 hours, to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I needed a podcast editor. Well, I gave a speech out in Dallas, and there was a young guy there that was running a video production company, and he was a solopreneur. And he happened to be at the speech, and he said, "Hey, do you mind if I record your speech?" I'm like, "Nah, that's fine. Record it." And then after it was done, he, sent me back this really cool edited video. And I said, "Man, I'd love to have you help me out on more things, but I can't afford to have some videographer follow me around town and doing all that." He goes, "Well, what else do you need?" And I said, "Well, I need somebody who can edit a podcast." He said, "Well, I've never done that." I said, "But I can't afford to pay you to edit the podcast." He goes, "Well, I just want to be around you, be close to you because you seem like you're going places. You know about sales. I don't know about sales. How about you teach me sales and I'll edit your podcast?" And I'm like, I can do that. Right. So, yeah, a guy named Joe was literally the guy who edited my podcast for the longest time. And I just traded him services and taught him how to sell. And now he runs a pretty cool company and everything. But those first early years, every time you needed something done, just barter your ass off and get somebody else to come in and trade.
Wow, that's awesome. So with what you know now, I mean, you're full-time all in entrepreneur at this point, not an employee anymore. What's that feel like?
It's wild. The biggest thing that nobody will tell people about running a business is you're going to meet yourself. And what I mean by that is at some point running your own company, you're going to realize that there's no excuses left. But as an employee, you can blame the world for everything. You know, the
Mhm.
economy sucks, market's down, the company's marketing is crap, there's too much competition in the marketplace. But when you run your own company, none of those excuses work anymore. Because if you let those excuses be actual things, then you're going to go out of business, right? So once you realize that success is your fault and failure is your fault, you'll get to a point where you have to look yourself hard in the freaking mirror and decide if you like that person looking back at you. And
Mhm.
what I found for me is the day I finally decided that I was a pretty good dude and that I deserve some good things in life, life got a lot better. Because if you don't like yourself, nobody else is going to, right? Nobody's going to want to be around you. And you know, if you look at Jocko Willink, whether you love him, hate him, the idea of extreme ownership is a beautiful thing. Because
Mhm.
if you can get to that place, then you know sales conversations get easier because the outcomes don't matter,
Mhm.
right? You know, getting your business to grow is a lot easier because you're just living in a higher mental capacity that makes life more fun. And so the biggest thing that I've learned running a business is the answer is 100% how you see yourself. Everything else just gets a little bit easier from there. I don't want to say simple. I don't want to say it's 100% easy, but man, once you know who you are and what you're made of, you can do some pretty killer things. And your crowd around you will rise. You know, the people you hang out with, you'll start finding other entrepreneurs that are going as big as you are. And we have a company motto that go break something is what we say all the time, because if things aren't breaking, you're not going big enough. So it's constantly trying things. And we're talking about breaking things on purpose. Let's try a new program. Let's try a new software. Let's try a new sales tactic, whatever, just so we can learn from it. And
Yeah.
and it forces you to evolve really quick.
Yeah. So if somebody's interested in what you're doing, Donnie, to find you out there, where do we find you?
So if they want to see our world and all the companies thing we do, text the word success to 817-318-6030, and we'll send a whole bunch of free stuff, all of our social links and everything, how to get to us. Um, I think there's some books and things in there as well. But if you just want to learn about our world and the things we do, text the word success to 817-318-6030, and we'll send you over a whole bunch of stuff for free.
Awesome. And we're getting close to the end of our time. Last word. I always like to ask this: if you're talking to yourself when you were still in the Marine Corps, or somebody else that's still in, or they're on their way out, or maybe they just transition out and they don't like where they landed, looking to run their own business, looking to get into entrepreneurship, what kind of advice comes to mind?
100% start. Don't wait. The only regret that I have is 20 years of not creating, 20 years of not building. If I had been started a business 20 years ago, do you know the empire I'd have right now? Just for out of pure tenacity and grit.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't care if the whatever idea you have, do it, start. And the faster you start screwing things up, the faster you start scrambling, the faster you get to that place where you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And you start figuring things out, the faster you'll get to where you want to be. But if you are getting out of the military and you think you this world owes you anything, you're gonna lose, and you're gonna lose quickly. Get out, start something, go all in, work as hard as you did while you were in the military. Well, don't work as hard as I did because I didn't work hard in the military, but and put your head down and get after it. You'll be amazed at what happens.
Awesome. Great advice, Donnie. All right. So Great interview. Thanks for sharing your entrepreneurial success story. Doing great things out there. We look forward to your future success also.
Yeah. Hey, and one quick thing, guys. If you got any tips or value out of Joe's podcast here, do him a favor and share this out with one person. Man, being a fellow podcaster, I can tell you growing an audience is one of the toughest things here. So tell one other person to listen to this show. It'll mean the world to him.
That's awesome. Hey, we didn't even rehearse that. I didn't even know that's coming. That's awesome.
Thanks again, Joe.
Appreciate it, Donnie. Take care. Hoorah. These two veterans are Oscar Mike.
Actually, I'm just sitting here. I'm not on the